go. Hello and welcome back to Your Confidence Unleashed. This is all about how to break through limiting beliefs to own your unique magic, unleash it into the world with unwavering confidence, and create the life that you've always wanted. So we are very lucky today to have Natalia Price with us. Thank you for joining us, Natalia.
It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you. So for the interest of just keeping these conversations really juicy and jam-packed with value for everybody, if you can just take like 2 minutes and introduce yourself, just tell us who you are and what kind of magic you're creating in the world.
Thank you. My name is Natalia Price, and I am a spiritual women's empowerment coach, and I'm a facilitator of the 13 Moon Mystery School. And we are a modern day mystery school that is all about bringing in the divine feminine lensing to raise consciousness and to open hearts on the planet, really seeing the importance of this rebalancing of the masculine and feminine in our world, to see this new planet for us. And I'm a priestess, and I run rituals, community ceremonies, moon gatherings, retreats, and an online priestess initiate program.
Incredible. It's so fascinating. It's a world, honestly, I'm not too familiar with, and I've been checking into it a little bit ever since we got introduced, and it's blowing my mind. What you do is fascinating, and it's on a whole different level than where I am in my evolution and spirituality path. So I can't wait to hear more about it. So in the interest of the theme of this summit, which is just all around confidence and stepping into our most confident selves and really pulling back the curtain for women who want to be out there making their dreams and their visions a reality, much like what you're doing in the world every day. I really want to kind of pull the curtain back and just show them what confidence looks like for each of you women who are out there doing the thing. So can you just tell us a little bit about a time in your life, it can be in your business journey or just in your life in general, when you felt really low in terms of confidence? So a moment where you felt really down and maybe like you just got the wind kind of knocked out of your sails. And then from there, take us to a moment where you felt really confident and really on top of the world, if you can.
Yes. I know for myself in my own journey of, self-empowerment and just really coming into knowing me, I was a performer and a dancer, and I felt really good being out in the world when I had like a role, or I had, the choreography or the group or the show. But I was really yearning to speak and to share the wisdom that I had. But I was so afraid to speak in public. I would freeze up. I would blank out. My heart would just race. My blood would be going up and down. And I felt like I would never be able to step into that place of sharing what I had and of speaking. And then I would see all these other women out in the world that could speak so beautifully. And I was so enamored by that. And like, wow, how do they do it? How do they find that confidence in that center place? And it seemed like something that was so far away that I really couldn't access, because I had a story that, oh, I'm shy, I'm really nervous, I can't get my thoughts together. And truly it was through stepping deeper into the inner work around who I was and what I stood for, and especially in the shadow work. In the 13 Moon Mystery School, we really work with the unconscious shadow material to see what's really blocking us and what's really holding us back, and looking at from a place of what is underneath there, what wants to be acknowledged and ultimately embraced.
Mm,
as opposed to coming to it from the outside where we're just giving it strategy or
mm,
a to-do list or what we should be doing, but seeing what are the, the blocks that are there, and how are they created? How are they serving us? What are the ways that perhaps it might even be protecting us? And so often we see a lot of that work comes from our childhood or from trauma, or how we were conditioned by our upbringing or our parents, or what was passed on to us about what was right and wrong. And especially as women, right? That even though we are in this modern day and we think we're so empowered, it's been hundreds of years
mm,
where women were oppressed and our voices were silenced. And so it's very deeply ingrained in us, in ourselves, if you
mm,
believe in epigenetics, or it's been passed down to us.
mm,
And so for many of us, it's a deeper piece to look at, but really through going in and exploring that, seeing what's underneath, what is the biggest fear that I have, and realizing that this fear of stepping out and speaking and being either humiliated or judged, or then if I was judged, that then I would be ostracized, and then I'd be alone, and then I would just die. Just taking it, keep going deeper and deeper and deeper to what's actually there. And then how can we just be with that and love it and accept it and acknowledge what's there and love it up.
mm,
See that this way of closing down or shutting down when I wanted to speak was actually a coping protection mechanism that I had taken on from childhood. And when we just do that piece of looking at them, looking at these issues and loving them and embracing them and giving them energy, it already starts to transmute it. It already starts to clear the energy. It's like any piece, the more we try to hide it or shove it away or try to dress it up, often we get more beautiful or put on more makeup or something to kind of hide those pieces. It's
mm.
almost like the more they want to come out, and the more they keep us stuck in those places.
Wow. I've never thought of it this way, but I just had a thought that I wanted to ask you when you were speaking about the balancing of masculine and feminine energy. Is shadow work related to femininity? I mean, looking underneath all of it and sort of the masculinity is maybe pushing it down or hiding it, or are those things really not related?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
And but not in the sense of the masculine and feminine as a gender, or like, oh, it's men are like this or women are like this, because we all have that inner masculine and inner
Mhm.
feminine within us. But it's been so stereotyped that the woman is demure and shy, and that we're here to serve, and that's where we find our value or our worth.
Mm.
That unless we're helping or doing something, we're not worthy in the world. And it hasn't really been that long that women have been able to have a job or have a mission or be empowered in aligned in what we're here to do in the world.
Mm.
Right, for so long it was about serving our partner, our husband, our community, our children.
Yeah.
And so as modern day women, we're really refining that. But how do we come into that confidence piece from the inside? Because so many of us weren't given confidence as children. And you see a lot of the really successful women in the world, they've often been given that, or sometimes we might have that stereotype or that projection, right? That they were born with some golden spoon, or
Yes.
because they're beautiful or they're rich or they have a powerful family. And yes, those are beautiful things that push us forward. It's really that inside work
Mm.
that often, our parents imparted into us to believe in ourselves, not because of what we looked at or because of our sexuality or because we could, lure people in, but just for being who we are
Mm.
and standing in that truth and that power. And so for all of us, coming into that balance with that inner masculine and feminine really creates a more whole and complete human for us
Mm.
to go out in the world and have successful relationships, have successful work, everything that we're offering in the world to come from a balanced place.
Yeah. Is it I mean, I guess there's no way that it's supposed to be, but is it something that we should strive for to have like a 50-50 balance of that masculine and feminine energy? Or does every person have maybe a different balance that's right for them?
All of us come in our own unique journey, right? And we
Mm,
do notice that some of us are more feminine, and perhaps the way we look or the way we act or even the way we speak,
mhm,
or you could say more masculine. But what we're really looking at is these greater kind of archetypal um, energetic forms of how the world has moved around these two, which can be polarized
mm,
pieces. And so where we're each one of us are at, and on some level, we're accepting who we are and how we've come in here. And also, it's just really important to investigate, to question, to look at it. The same way that we're investigating our fears or, what's
yeah,
blocking us. And to see, because we live in a masculine world, but it's kind of like just the air that we breathe. We don't realize that everything that is out in the world that's been made has come from a male mind.
mm,
And this is a beautiful thing, and it's really helped us move forward in the world. But when we see when it's overly balanced, this place of just using logic and
mm,
reason and being productive has not served humanity as a whole. That we need to bring in these more feminine qualities of inclusion, of collaboration, of compassion,
mm.
of, being in the flow and that inner listening.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so important. Um, in addition to when it comes to your confidence journey and how you've evolved over time, in addition to the shadow work that you've really done, is there anything else that you've done in terms of different practices or maybe just in the evolution of time that has increased your confidence and your ability to go out there and to speak now? I mean, you speak so eloquently now, so you wouldn't know that when you started out you were terrified of speaking.
Yes. And, people often ask me, oh, have you taken like speech classes or public speaking? And like I said, for me, it was a real inside job
Mm,
to go in there, see what was there, and love it all up.
yeah.
And that piece around self-love is so crucial
Mm,
and often really gets overlooked because, we have this idea of love and even this archetypal frequency of like this goddess of love, of like Aphrodite and Venus, and kind of this pink,
yeah.
that it's just like a stereotype, but in that real place of self-love and how important it is for us to offer that to ourselves, to put attention in that.
Mm,
Because in our world, we put so much attention on what it is to love others and what it looks like and what are the acts of kindness that we do, or how, we serve others or we help them. But
mm,
it's not often turn that around to ourselves, because that's really where the core of our foundation is, of how do we offer ourselves compassion? How do we recognize that voice of the inner critic that often will slay us, right? That will just like, oh, I did that wrong. How could I?
mm,
Forgot everything I was supposed to do or say, or I didn't do that wrong. And so with that aspect of the shadow work of going in there and just see like, okay, I was nervous and that's just what was in that moment, but I am trusting in myself and
mm,
cultivating this place of loving myself up, of honoring my strengths, honoring the gifts that I have, so that I can keep strengthening and cultivating. And, as we all know, a big part of this piece is practice, is just keep putting ourselves out there, that the only way through it is through it. Like none of us just showed up as an entrepreneur or as a woman in the world, just having it all or being super confident. I mean, there are some people, yes, that, they've since their children have been set up in this way. But it's really like every single time I teach or I speak or do anything, I am just learning. And I'm
mm,
almost learning the most from my mistakes, from seeing like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, next time I could do better with this piece. Or, oh, I want to cultivate this aspect of myself more.
Oh my gosh, that's so valuable because like you said that you used to look at people and say, oh, they're so confident or they speak so well. I could never be like that. You know, many people look at you that way and look at maybe me that way and all of the women that are participating in this summit. And it's something that every single one of you have said that it wasn't always this way. And that to be who you are now, it has taken going through it and actually taking those steps, taking action, even when it's scary, even when it's terrifying at times, even when you don't feel like you've got it all figured out. And I love that concept of practice. And isn't it just sort of always practice, even as we continue to evolve from, you know, where you are now? Continuing to practice, right?
Yes. And especially that place of that inner practice of coming inward. You know, in the 13 Moon Mystery School, we have a practice. It's called Feed the Feminine First.
Mm,
And it entails starting your day every day doing something that feeds that feminine aspect of ourselves, of that self-love, of being in stillness, of being in that place of that inner listening and reflecting on yourself.
mm,
And it could be anything as simple as, you know, taking some deep breaths in the morning, calming yourself, meditating, going on a walk in nature, or lighting a candle and just sitting there, or maybe a gratitude practice for yourself, or setting your intentions. But something that really brings you into that inward stillness and alignment of who you are.
mm.
And it's not like, you know, how we get tricked by the mind into just going straight to our to-do lists or our phones or
Our
into our
phones.
workout, or, you know, just jump in the shower and start the day and that go, go, go. It's just very much in that kind of masculine aspect of you must be productive. You must get a bunch of things done to be worthy.
Mm,
And this is like, okay, how do we listen? What does my body need today? What needs to shift in my inner mindset? What are the places that I can be kind or take some time or do something beautiful for myself today?
mm. That's, oh, I love that. It feels good hearing that. And I know that it feels good doing it because I've done it so many times where I've set up a morning routine for myself and really incorporated some of those practices. And then I personally really have to continue to get present with it because it's so easy to be swept away by the other things. You get into a busy phase of life or feel like you have too much work or too many important things to really take that time and just be in the morning. I think that's really, really important.
And that's really where that piece around commitment to
Mm,
yourself and your inner growth and that place of discipline and this idea of practice.
mm,
And so, you know, and how to be gentle and to be kind to ourselves, like, okay, oh, today I had to, you know, have a very early appointment with someone, so how can I take even just 10-15 minutes in your day to just go outside and be and just listen to your inner voice or listen to nature, listen to the wind, something that really creates a slowing down where we feel like we are nourishing and loving ourselves up and sustaining ourselves from that inner place so that then we can give in our business or in our families or, you know,
mm,
whatever we're doing out in the world, that we are nourishing and giving to ourselves first, you know,
yeah,
filling that inner cup first.
yeah. What I'm hearing from you, a word that just keeps coming to mind, and I'm not even sure if you said it or not, but it's just the feeling. It sounds like forgiveness is a big part of self-love, maybe for women, right? That that process of loving ourselves up instead of beating ourselves up when we feel like we've made a mistake or looking back at our past and reassuring ourselves that, you know, it's okay that we made mistakes or it's okay that maybe we're not where we would love to be right now. Do you think that forgiveness has been a big part of your journey, self-forgiveness?
Oh, definitely. It's a crucial aspect of doing that inner work. And if
Mm,
we have things within us that we are still holding, an inner grudge or this inner judgment, that it really doesn't allow us to grow and put ourselves out there deeper.
mm,
It's and so much, we often think of forgiveness being around like forgiving somebody else for something that was
yeah.
done to us, but ultimately it's this deeper even of forgiving ourselves for however we got ourselves into that situation, or however that inner judge has come in and turned some situation around and made it our fault, or that we did this or we deserve this, or especially because as children we took on a lot of these belief systems
Mm,
that our parents divorced or something because it was our fault, or because we weren't good enough, or we weren't, people pleasing, or we weren't the good girl, or whatever it is. And so it's all of that going in there and acknowledging what is those inner pieces inside of ourselves, the trauma or the pain or the hurt or the places where we haven't forgiven ourselves, that we need to just acknowledge and witness. Be like, oh, this piece is still hurting me and holding me back from opening my heart and being authentic and true with others.
mm. So once we've noticed it and witnessed it, do you have practices that allow us to release it?
Yes. Well, we're not really necessarily working on this idea of release or let go, or, sometimes we
Okay.
have this idea of like cord cutting, where I need to cut these things
Mm,
off, or, get some inner sword. And the perspective that we really come from is this more feminine perspective where we are embracing it and
mm,
accepting that this is a part of who we are. And so once you've really found this piece that's within you, or like this trauma or this hurt, or, that blockage that's in you, and you really look at it, and sometimes it helps to look at where this came from. Was this passed down to me from my mother or my grandmother? Or was this
mm,
because, my brothers and sisters made fun of me? It helps sometimes to know where it came from, but it doesn't always necessarily know. And sometimes it's so deep in there that we don't quite see it.
mm,
But really, it's just looking and observing this piece. And it really helps to sometimes journal with it so that we are fully acknowledging and witnessing it. And that's that piece of being the witness, that we all often see like that outer, that we can see it from that outer place.
mm,
And then looking at it deeper of, how is this piece, this challenge served me? How has it perhaps protected me? How did it keep me safe in the world? How has it,
mm,
what can I see perhaps the gifts in it? And how can, if in any way that I can come into a place of gratitude around it, like, thank you for keeping me safe and not, just putting me out there, so that we can just acknowledge and love it up and just be like, thank you for being there. And now I'm ready to just fully integrate you and embrace you into my being, into wholeness. And so often what happens is that piece that we thought was our biggest challenge or pain or weakness, that we've often termed it as that, when
mm,
we really bring it in and embrace it and see all sides or all aspects of it, it starts to almost inside of us, it creates this vibrational frequency where it starts to shift things within us just naturally. It's not like we need a solution or we have to figure it out or have a strategy for how we're going to move this. Just by being with it and loving it up, loving that little girl part of us that was hurt by this piece, and being there for him, it shifts things within us. And then oftentimes that thing that you thought was your weakness becomes your greatest strength.
mm,
Where when I was able to find my voice and recognize that I want to speak this piece for all beings that are blocked in this place. I want to assist other women in finding their voice and finding their confidence and finding who they are in
Mm.
that really deep centered place, their feminine power and that sensual vitality and passion. And then it's almost like it ends up being your strength or part of your mission or purpose in the world that gives you greater confidence because you've moved through it. And I mean, I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it's just a one-time thing. And now I got this and I'm always confident. Because often you'll see that those old stories, or maybe perhaps it was something your parents said to you over and over, they'll come back in through
Mhm.
the back door, right? Or that inner critic will find some other little place. And we just have to come back into that loving place of like, I hear you, I feel that, to catch ourselves when that inner critic comes in and be like, nope, I'm not listening to that voice anymore. I know my worth. I know that this is an important thing in the world, that this matters.
That is incredible, Natalia. I mean, I've never heard it explained in that way. There's so much out there that tells us that we have to release, get rid of, like you said, cord cut, or cancel our thoughts, cancel our feelings, and erase or reprogram. And maybe at the end of the day it's all the same. It's acknowledging, but the way that you talk about it, of integrating it and loving it up, is powerful. It feels better, it feels different.
Yeah, this place of embracing it is, you know what? This is a part of me. I've carried this wound or this trauma my whole life. I'm not just going to like, how can I see what its wisdom was and turn it around and use all that I learned from being insecure, from feeling unworthy, feeling that I was never enough, that I always needed to do something. And how can I now use that as fuel, as no? And, a lot of it you could say is caught up in the semantics of words of like, no, I'm going to cut it off, or I need to reprogram. But in some ways, it's for us having a boundary with ourselves and being like, no more. I am not choosing to
Right.
listen to that old voice anymore. I am choosing love. I am
Mm.
choosing confidence. I am choosing to be on purpose and on fire in the world, right? To help others through this piece.
Mm. I love it. I'm on fire now. It's
And you
beautiful.
often see that way with like survivors of abuse or trauma, that now it's like their crusade, that now it's their
Hmm.
mission, right? That it's like,
Sure.
no, I'm going to help others because I did it. I can help others through this piece. And even seeing, how it's a collective thing for
Mm.
women, this unworthiness, this not enoughness,
For sure.
that it's the patriarchy has just shoved to keep us down so that the patriarchy could stay in power, so those on top could have power over us. And so
Mm.
the more as a feminine that we are rising and lifting each other up and supporting each other as women, and as I step in my confidence, I'm inspiring other women to step into theirs. And the
Absolutely.
more transparent and authentic that I can be around it, to be like, yes, I still have fears, I still get afraid to speak, but now I have tools, or I have practices, or I've cultivated this inner voice to be like, no, I got this.
Mm.
I love myself. I am worthy just for being here. And so this idea of perhaps like reprogramming, I like to say it repatterning or reparenting ourselves, right? Because a lot of that comes from when we were children, of what how we were held down. And so it's like, no, I am strong, I am powerful. And it helps sometimes to have positive affirmations for ourselves. That all the old thing we say of like writing it on your mirror, or those post-it notes, or like, what is your go-to every time that specific insecurity comes up for you? Or around, especially comparison and competition,
Mm.
right? This is a big piece
Big
for us
time.
as women.
Yeah.
And I feel that some way back there, it was ingrained in us too, to keep us down around like gossiping or talking behind each other's
Yeah.
back,
Putting
or
us against each other.
yeah, that's it, putting us against each other to keep us all down. And so now, how do we catch ourselves when we are comparing ourselves to another woman, or competing or secretly competing, right? Because
Mm.
often we all have this thing that we're all pretending to we're all in this together, but secretly we're like, there's almost like
Trying
this
to win.
annihilation, yeah, that's happening inside. And so that piece is that catch ourselves like, oh, I'm doing that again. When I'm in social media, oh, look, I'm comparing myself to this woman. Or, like, let's say you got a new client and
Mhm.
you're all happy about it, but then you see, oh, but this person has 5 new clients, or they have 50 people in my program, and now my 20 people I'm not feeling good or
Yeah,
satisfied anymore.
that's nice.
And it really robs us of being in our power, of being in our joy, of just
Joy.
honoring that we're all on this unique path. There's not a single one of us that is the same. We cannot compare ourselves to each other. And it is so damaging to ourselves and our self-worth, and to our sisterhood, and to this whole rising up that we want to happen together on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely vital. Thank you.
And so,
Um,
especially on that piece around comparison and competition, of like, okay, look, I'm doing that thing again, stop that. And see, what is the thing that you're projecting onto that other woman that actually lives in you?
mm,
Because if you see it in them and they trigger you, it's because it's a piece for you. Either it's something that is a part of, what you're here to bring to the world, or it's a piece that perhaps shows you where the inner work needs to happen, where you need to
something for
love
you to look
yourself
at.
up more. Like I said, I was fascinated by other women that could speak in public, because later I realized, because that was my gift to bring
You
to
have
the
that
world is
desire and the
yeah.
will. Oh,
And so, how to turn it around and bring it back to yourself and shine the light and love yourself up and call in the divine in whatever way that is for you,
mm,
and call in her grace to assist you in your process of self-confidence or self-love or self-empowerment, and that self-worth. Call in assistance, or call in assistance from your guides or your angels, your mentors, your allies, or even from your ancestry, from the women in your line behind you that want you to succeed,
mm. That's
to use
powerful.
that to empower us. So we don't necessarily have to have like the exact roadmap, but that this empowers us and inspires us from the inside out. And then you might be guided to that mentor, to that program, or to use those specific practices, to find greater confidence, but that it comes from the inside out.
From you first. Oh, so good. So, so good. You've already offered so much, but I mean, I know you've got more in you. I want to just ask you one last question. For the women who are listening, who see you and see your confidence and see all of the women doing what they're doing and doing it with passion and love and purpose, the women who, like you said in the beginning, maybe are creating that separation of, well, she can do it because she's got this or that, or the beauty, the money, the whatever it is. What would you tell that woman who just who wants so badly to create this vision for her life and to make it a reality, but she feels held back? If you could just make one thing really land with her, what would you tell her?
I would say to come back inside and attune to her heart, and attune to this love that is all around her from the divine, and allow that to speak to her, to inspire her from the inside out. And then anything that she sees out there of what she would like to be, allow it to inspire her, to lift
Mm,
her up, to give her more ideas, but not thinking that she has to be like anyone else, that we're all so unique. We've all come here
mm,
with our own story and our own purpose, and come back inside and lean into that, to
mm.
love yourself up, to find what are the ways that I can love myself up more deeper and more joyfully and with more vitality.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalia. You have a beautiful gift for our audience as well. Do you want to tell them about that?
Yes, I have a gift. It's an offering of looking at what are the ways that you can step deeper into that soul journey with ritual, with prayer, with intention, to
Mm.
come into greater alignment, to come into more centeredness and into that feminine power. And these are some practices and steps that you can use, that you can work to inspire you, or in your, your feminine first practice,
Mm.
but something to help you really stand in your truth and be able to offer your gifts in the world with greater confidence and with greater joy.
Oh, so perfect. So perfect. Thank you so much for your generosity for this conversation, for that offering. I'm just so happy to be connected with you, and I know so many women are going to be as well. So thank you, Natalia.
Thank you, Kelly. It is such a beautiful thing what you're doing here for women, and the way that you're bringing together all these women to collaborate and to share their wisdom to inspire others. It's so needed on our planet right now for all of us to lift each other up and to work together. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you. We'll talk very soon. Thanks.